Hello and good morning. Sorry for starting a couple minutes late. For some of you who may not know, I am running a challenge this week. And the only time where I could make it the same time every day of the week was 6 in the morning, my time. So I took a quick break before getting started here. Okay, so we have a few questions that I wanted to go over from the sessions that we've had before, from questions that have come up, and a couple of new questions for this week that I wanted to start with, and then any questions that you guys have, of course, as usual. Okay, so the first thing that we had a question on is how late is too late for Q4? And that's a really, really broad question. But just to give you a sense of timelines here, okay, so your basic timeline for getting stuff into the fulfillment centers, if you are shipping small parcel, is going to be the first week of November. So if you're shipping small parcel, you want to ship no later than the first week of November, and that's small parcel. For those of you who may be shipping via pallet, you actually want to ship those items out by pallet within the next 2 weeks, actually. So pallet shipments to be on time for Black Friday, ship by mid-October. Okay, so those are the kind of basic in-stock pieces. So the number one most important rule of Q4 is have stock. If you don't have stock, then none of the rest of it matters. So that's just there's no other way to put that. You have to be in stock. So if you are in stock and everything is good there, then what you need to have are optimized ads. So part of the reason why we're running an advertising challenge this week is because then you can use the rest of October to optimize and improve the ads. And then by the time you get to November, then you've already got some great optimized ads that you can throw some money at and just push for Q4 and be able to get into that. A lot of people make the mistake of waiting until they're already, a week or two out from Black Friday before starting their ads, and they don't have time to optimize it. And so then it's very expensive for them. Then the next piece that you need for getting ready for Q4 is your detail pages. Make sure your listings are up to date. Make sure your titles have the best potential keywords for getting traffic. Make sure that the ones that are kind of secondary are in your bullets so that you can get the benefit there. Make sure that your pictures make sense. So we have some clients who, just as an example, their product was something where they had a description of the size in one of the bullets, and the size of the product was basically in inches the whole way, and it was fairly long. So it was around 72 inches, I think, something like that. And the problem was, excuse me, a lot of customers are bad at math. And so doing that, inches are in 12, right? It's not like it's a nice convenient metric system where it's all divisible by tens or hundreds. It's divisible by 12. And so then you have to know your 12s. And so a lot of people were confused. They would say, okay, I'm 6'2", or I'm 5'10". Will this fit me? Because they're thinking of themselves in their own feet, inches, height. So what we did was we basically created a whole picture with a chart that had the how you normally have those little dimension diagrams. Those are still permitted on Amazon. You don't, without text, of course, but you can still put a dimension diagram on the main images up at the top and put it in feet and inches instead of the usual inches. A lot of spec sheets will just have it in inches because specs are just what you have in your catalog, right? So a lot of times your manufacturers or your factories will list it in inches, and you're like, okay, I guess it's in inches. But customers don't see it that way. That's just one kind of high level example of how maybe the way that your customers are interacting with your page is not the same as the way that you think of your page. So look at what customers are saying about your page. Look at what customers are saying about related pages. We have a particular method we use called a customer sentiment analysis, where we'll actually go through the page and sort and filter by the kind of comments that people are making, the exact text of the comments, and then based on that exact text in the comments, come up with a bullet structure where the most important questions, the ones that are asked over and over again, are landing in the first bullet or even in the title. And so then every part of the detail page should be based on customer feedback and customer interaction. That way you can be confident that when someone lands on your page, then it'll be what they're looking for. Whatever it happens to be that you're selling them, you want to make sure that when they land on the page, it either attracts them and they're like, yes, this is it. This is the thing I want. Or you want it to repel them, right? If they're the wrong person for your product, then you want them to be like, oh, no. If you're a 6'5" person and the product only fits a 6 foot tall person, then you do not want the 6'5" person buying it, because then they're going to return it. And returns are expensive, very expensive. So the whole purpose of your detail page marketing is to attract the right customer and to repel the wrong customer. You never want to have, a whole bunch of people who buy your product and then end up not wanting to keep it. It's very expensive. And then the last piece of what you want to do for Black Friday, Cyber Monday Q4 prep is determine your coupon strategy. Basically, the entire catalog is on sale that weekend. And if you're not on sale, you're going to miss out. So a lot of people will do lightning deals. I'm not a big fan of lightning deals for smaller sellers, just because it's $150 per lightning review. So that's, per lightning deal. So the cost there often isn't worth it. It depends on how effective they are. You have to be able to do a really aggressive lightning deal to compete anymore, because a lot of people are doing them, and you have to be a significant lightning deal to compete in that space now. And they're pretty crowded, that space. They limit the number of lightning deals that can happen, but there's still so many that happen that customers kind of have overwhelm as well. So I personally don't like that for smaller sellers. If you have a lot of brand recognition, if you have a lot of traction on your product, then it makes sense. But for anyone who's just starting out, or you're just small in general, I don't recommend lightning deals. And I'm pretty sure it's past the cutoff anyway. So that's the situation there with lightning deals. What I recommend is having significant coupons. So normally coupons are minimum 5%. So I would say at least 15-20% for Black Friday, Cyber Monday timeline. And then you want to make sure that you're advertising, which we already talked about, but having something from a pricing perspective for people to say, oh, okay, so this product, actually, I'm getting a benefit from buying it right now. And coupons do that really well, because coupons are, they show up as a little banner, a tiny banner in the search results. So it gets people to click. And then it shows up as a tiny banner when they're adding it to cart. It's literally right next to the cart. It's easy to click. Okay, so that's the four main levers for Q4. You have your in stock. You have to be in stock. If you're not in stock, then none of this matters. The second thing is that you need to make sure that you're advertising so people can find your stuff. That's traffic, right? You need to get traffic to your page. Then the third thing is conversions. So make sure you've got a good page that will convert, that people want to, they say, yes, this is it. This is what I want. And the fourth thing is pricing. Pricing is a big part of conversion. It's especially a big part of conversion around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because people expect the good deals. Remember, I was my first year of college. I had my bicycle stolen, and it was a fairly large campus. So walking between classes when you only had 10 minutes to pack up and get to your next class wasn't really an option. Biking was going to be more effective. So I knew I needed a bike, and my parents were like, well, you can have $50. So I literally scoured all of the Black Friday ads that I could find, because it got stolen a couple weeks before I came home for Thanksgiving, and found that there was a $49 bike at Walmart, and I could pay for the tax myself, since Washington is a sales tax state. And so I took $50 from my parents, and I went to Walmart on Black Friday and fought for my $50 bike. So sometimes, people are expecting those great deals and won't buy unless they get them, because that's the time of year that they can either afford it, or, that's the time of year that they're willing to spend. Okay, so we have a question here from Tandy about the pictures. Seeing that Amazon can only put those in, or that they're automatically created by Amazon. Okay, so there's two different things we're talking about. There's a kind of grayed out picture of a person, and then that has the diagram. If you're talking about those ones, yes, those are automatically created by Amazon. You can create those too. So we actually had our designer create a few similar type of charts for clients, but those ones that you're talking about are created by Amazon. The one that I was mentioning for that client, we basically had the picture, the white background picture that was the primary image, and then superimposed basically lines on it, on the outside of it, to make it to where it was clear what the length and width and height of the product was. There's various ways you can do that, but the number diagrams are totally fine with your top level images. What Amazon doesn't want to see on those, and we've actually had a suspension case that we worked on this, so Amazon really does care about this in a limited fashion. If they find out about it, they care. There's no automated way for them to find it, so they have to have a report to work on. But for him, he had put like whole swaths of text, like there were sentences in the pictures up at the top. So be careful of that. Christina asks, what is Amazon's early reviewer program? Amazon's early reviewer program is a Amazon approved methodology to get reviews. Basically, you enroll your product in the program, your ASIN or your parent ASIN, and that product is then signed up for automated emails from Amazon, so that whenever an item is sold, then Amazon sends out a message saying, hey, can you review this? The benefit to that is that people are much more likely to open an email from Amazon than from you. So even if you're sending your own Feedback Genius or Feedback5 or whatever emails, they may not actually be opening them. So with Amazon sending it out, you might have more luck getting an actual review. Now, there's an inherent challenge in this, which is that a lot of people won't buy until there is a review. And to get the early reviewer program to work, you have to get people to buy. So it makes it awkward. So that means you either need to have really great pictures on the page. If you're trademarked, then you can add a video, you can add enhanced content. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. You can actually add video if you're not brand registered as well. It just shows up in a different part of the page. So you'd put it into related video shorts, or you can upload it as a customer. Like if you have a video that you want to upload, you can upload it directly to the page. It just shows up in a different spot right above the customer Q&A, as opposed to a main prominent part of the page. So that's kind of the problem, is that try to get people to convert. Reviews are so important. But if you have videos, if you have really great pictures, if you have content that helps them decide, okay, this is it, this is what I want to go for, it's still going to be tough. Advertising is usually between 80 and 150% ACoS on something that doesn't have reviews. It's expensive. You generally need to sell the items with a coupon to get people to make that leap. If it's something that they can't trust, then it needs to be cheap enough to get them over that hurdle. So sometimes I like to do the coupon approach rather than the price change approach, because sometimes if you raise your price too fast, if you get good reviews and people are liking it, and you start raising your price again, if you'd lowered it to get reviews, then Amazon might sometimes take away the buy box from you because you're raising your price too much. So I generally prefer to have the price that you want to sell it at set, and then run a coupon instead. That way, that is your MSRP. That's what you're selling it as. And you can put anything you want in MSRP. But in any case, Amazon knows this is your price, and this is a temporary coupon discount. That way, they don't do that whole thing where they take away your buy box from you because you've been raising your price. There are other reasons why they take away the buy box, but that's one that's kind of annoying. Okay. And you don't pay for the early reviewer program unless you get reviews. So that's nice too. You can enroll it, and then you may not even pay for it for 3 or 4 weeks if you don't get reviews. Now, obviously, it's better to pay because then you get reviews. Okay, so we have a question from Hugh. How do I add the ability to offer a set, 2 of the same item or 3 of the same item? Will the reviews from the original item show up on all 3? Okay, so you want to create that as a variation on your listing, and some subcategories don't allow variations, so you may need to switch your subcategory. The vast majority of products are found in search, not browse. So as long as you have a subcategory that's reasonably correct for your product, then don't worry about it. So the 2 of an item or 3 of an item, you actually need to create those. There's 2 ways to do that. You can either create them as a merchant fulfilled listing, so it'd be something that's shipped by you, and you can either ship those out yourself, or you can use Amazon's oh gosh, what's the exact name of it? Whatever the name of, they always have funny names for things, but the tool that you can use to ship FBA directly out from Amazon without having an order, you can make the 2 or 3 pack available to see if people are interested on your page, and then actually manually ship from Amazon. So you don't even have to create your variations. You can test variations beforehand. I love doing this for events or for certain times of year where I'm not sure if it's going to work. I just want to see if it's going to work. So I'll create a merchant fulfilled listing that's a variation, see if customers land on it, see if customers are interested, see if sales start to happen. But I'll use the FBA inventory that's already at Amazon and just ship to. or ship 3, whatever. Or if it's a set that I'm trying, like a new bundle for a potential client, or for a client that's just started, and I'm like, you know what, I think these 2 items really need to sell together. I'll create a fake bundle where I'm actually shipping the 2 items from Amazon manually. So that's one way to do it, or you can ship it yourself. Then once you know that you want to move forward, or if you already do know you want to move forward, that's fine too. Then you would create the actual 2-pack or the 3-pack before you ship it into Amazon, put it into a box, and then put your FNSKU on the outside for the 2-pack or the 3-pack. Now, when you're creating those variations, you can use your own UPCs. Now, Amazon has put a policy in place that you need to have GS1 UPCs. The problem is they're having a really hard time enforcing that, and here's why. If you have a UPC on a product from Procter & Gamble or from one of the really big companies, there's only one UPC for the product, for the 3-pack, the 12-pack, the carton, whatever. They're only using one UPC for that because they are keeping track often in their system using a different SKU. So what they're doing, they're usually not using a different UPC for the carton versus the 3-pack versus the 1-pack. So then there is no way to get official different UPCs from even these really big companies on Amazon, and Amazon requires a different UPC per listing. So long story short, if you have a 2-pack or 3-pack you want to list, Amazon has not been enforcing their GS1 UPC policy on 2-packs, 3-packs, or cartons. They have been allowing third-party UPCs to be used. Now, be careful about anyone who's selling those created ones. You don't want someone who's just like generically creating UPCs out of nowhere. You want someone who bought like 1 million UPCs and is parceling them out for extra money. So we actually bought something from Speedy Barcodes a couple years ago, and they're still working just fine. We haven't had any issues. Does that answer your question, Hugh? Let me know if it doesn't. Okay, Tracy asks, in regards to text, can we have directions in the picture section? If not, where do you recommend putting this info? So what we did for that, because they typically don't want you to have any sort of text at all. So what we have done is have pictures that have like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the bullets, we describe how to use it 1, 2, 3, 4. That way there's no text in the picture, so it complies. It's just numerals. And then the text is in the bullets. Now, the real benefit, of course, is that if you have brand registry, then you can put that into the enhanced brand content. You can actually do text with pictures, and you can do a lot of things in enhanced brand content you can't do in the image section. But that's one way to get around in the image and bullet section, is you put your image showing the steps and then put like number 1. And then in the bullets, you say step number 1, do this. Now, that works really effectively for web because the images are right next to the bullets. It's less effective for mobile because the images are up here, and then you scroll, and then there's your bullets. So it's a little bit less effective on mobile, but it's fairly effective on web. Okay, question from Anthony. For new products, do you need to have a 3-star rating to be able to use coupons? Yes. You need to have at least 1 seller feedback to be able to be eligible for coupons, and your product has to have at least a 3-star rating. If you launched it and you just got negative reviews, then either A, your expectations that you're setting for customers are too high, so they expected something way better and they were disappointed, or 2, your price point doesn't match their expectations. So even if you didn't say it's great, the price would imply that it's great, and so they're upset. Or 3, it's so bad that no one wants to buy it. Now, usually it's not number 3. Usually you've already looked at this, you've already decided that it works for what you're trying to do. Usually it's some combination of 1 and 2, where someone felt like they were promised something that they didn't get, or they feel like they paid so much that it should have been better. So obviously your solution is to change your copy, or change your price, or explain why your price is fair in some way. There are ways to do it. Like if you say that it was designed with this specific feature, or it was made in the US, or whatever, there are ways to handle the pricing piece. But if you have negative reviews like that, a lot of people will often assume that it's a negative review because of a competitor, whereas I haven't really experienced that. I mean, there's some jerk customers who go around and they're like, I have a bad day, I'm going to leave a bad review. That happens. But typically it's because the customer is disappointed in some way, and they're disappointed enough to complain. So you need to figure out how that is. A lot of people will overmarket at first because they want to get the sale. But what you really want to do is get the sale from the right customer. There's plenty of people who shop at the dollar store and buy junk. There's plenty of people who shop at Bed Bath & Beyond and spend a ton of money for whatever they want, right? You need to target the right customer for your product. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and any questions that you have, please pop those in as they come in, is for Q4, what kind of returns can you expect in January? And this is a great question because a lot of people will buy in Q4 and either the gift will be not fitting or there will be buyer's remorse or something will happen and they'll return. So peak for our customer returns team at Amazon when I was there was January. Basically, the entire month of January, everyone was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to keep up with all the returns because they have a 30-day return window. And you have everyone who bought stuff for Christmas who are then either returning it because they received it and couldn't use it before Christmas, or it was opened at Christmas and they were unhappy with it, or someone got a gift card, bought something after Christmas, and they're returning it. So literally, it's the entire month of January that's being kind of taken up by all these return issues. You also need to make sure that you calculate that into your profit management. So you don't want to, get a whole bunch of stuff in December, get all your money, and then be like, all right, I'm spending it. This is great. So keep that in mind as well, that you do have to calculate in returns in January. So what usually you can expect is that for holiday returns, you're going to expect anywhere between 1.5 and 2x returns from typical. Sometimes people are more willing to buy, but less happy about things at Q4, just because, if they bought something for their kid and then it didn't fit, or something didn't arrive on time, that happens. Sometimes the network is just not strong enough to handle how much goes out at Q4 and things get missed. So it arrives on the 26th, the 27th, they're unhappy, they return it. So just keep that in mind, that it should be 1.5 to 2x your normal returns. If you can work to get your detail page really buttoned down, then maybe you can actually maintain the same level of returns. Maybe you can lower the likelihood of return and maintain your level of returns. But just keep that in mind. There's a lot of returns that come through in January. Okay. All right. The last thing I want to talk about today is actually not a question that came in, but it's a topic that I think is super important for everyone to realize is important. It's kind of redundant to say it that way, but the basic thing is that Amazon just came out with a written policy around reviews. Now, a lot of these are pretty darn obvious. There's something that anyway, most people anyway, but the area that you have to be careful of is that Amazon is the first time has been very specific about exactly which things that they're prohibiting, and they said that a one-time infraction is enough to take down your account. So I will have these posted in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where I will share information, or these replays are also shared. What I want to make sure that everyone is up to date on is exactly what infractions will get you suspended. This is the time of year when you do not want to get suspended. Even a couple days down will ruin your rank and all the work that you've put in. You do not want to get suspended. I don't want your product suspended. So know what could get you suspended and just don't do it. Just don't get on their bad side. So a couple of examples from this policy. Sellers cannot post reviews on their own products or their competitors' products. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients who came to me and said, I bought this competitor product and it's absolute junk, and I really want to say something about it. And I'm like, no, don't say anything. Just don't do it. Then there are other things that are pretty important, like offering a reimbursement for a review. Now, if you do this, say 1, maybe 2 times, the likelihood of anyone figuring that out is pretty low. If you do this all the time, the likelihood of them figuring this out is pretty high. So always keep that in mind. They're on top of things, right? They know all the information about those customers who are leaving the review. You have to be signed in to leave a review. They know the information about you. And if you have any relationship to those people, if they can find relationships to those people, then you've got a problem. We had someone who was asking, how do I get reviews started? Friends and family seems like a great way to get started. Like, well, yeah, but how many times have you bought a gift card for your parents, and so did your sibling, or so did your cousins? Or how many times have you sent something to your grandma's house for Christmas, and so did your cousin, so you can't use your cousin now? How many times have you actually sent your family members or friends gifts? How many times have you sent them a gift certificate? I know I sent a gift certificate to a friend for her wedding. I sent another gift certificate to a friend because he helped me out with my dog. And so I sent an Amazon GC because I knew that he could use it. So what does Amazon know about you? What does Amazon know about your friends? Is your Facebook profile public? Can they go and they check? Because sometimes they'll review and the investigators will go check you personally and then go look you up. I was able to find the person who reviewed a client's product within about probably about 3 minutes of a Facebook search. I mean, I used to be an investigator for Amazon, so maybe I'm more, careful about how I look at things, but don't be stupid. my band director in high school used to say that whenever we'd go on trips. He would say, don't be stupid, because otherwise I've got to do paperwork. And that's how you should think. Like, whatever would get you into trouble, just don't do it. It's just way easier not to do it, because otherwise you're going to have someone do paperwork for you, and you do not want to be submitting a plan of action in Q4. No, thank you. The other thing to keep in mind is that Amazon has been very explicit that no matter who you work with, whether you hire somebody on Fiverr, whether you have an employee, whether you have a third-party agency you're working with, if they do anything that would jeopardize your account, you're on the hook, regardless of whether or not you knew about it or consented to it. So you better be really darn careful who you hire. We had someone that we worked with to get their account reinstated, and they had hired someone on Fiverr, and he had gone in and created a bunch of fake accounts to upvote their good reviews and downvote their bad reviews, and that got them suspended. So don't think that because you hired someone third party that then Amazon won't be able to track it. No, they're tracking that too. And if someone is doing it third party like that, where they're advertising their service on LinkedIn or on Fiverr or Upwork, it means they've been doing it for a lot of people. And so then their digital patterns are really easy for Amazon to follow. That's just like, here, put a target. Here's a target on my back. Go ahead, shoot me. Don't do that. Then the last thing I've seen people do that can be problematic is asking the seller. The seller asks the customer to change the review. Like, they had a bad review, and so they're like, hey, if I give you a free thing, will you change the review? Don't do that. That's also prohibited. And then something new that came in on this list that I think is really helpful to know about is the way that they say this is a seller creates a variation relationship between products with the aim of manipulating reviews and boosting a product star rating via review aggregation. That is not permitted. So if you're going to use a variation, and this, we actually did have a client whose listing was suspended for this, for improperly using variations, and you want to make sure, and just to be clear, the suspension clients are usually people who came to us because of the suspension. We're always very careful with our ongoing monthly clients to make sure that their accounts are managed in a completely above board fashion, because we don't want to deal with this. This is lame. So with the variations, you wouldn't be able to put things that aren't clearly variations of each other. So that means that it needs to be a very similar style, or the same style. It needs to just be variations by color, or something that is obviously part of a set. You can't put, say, I've seen this in apparel a lot, where they'll put like the arm cutout shirt where the arms are cut out along with the regular shirt. Those should not be variated together. People do that so that they can get reviews, because you get more traction when you have a variation with reviews than you do if you have a new cutout sleeve product as opposed to the one with sleeves. If it's brand new, then you may not get the traffic that you're hoping for. So people do that to get the traffic and to get the conversions, but Amazon is getting more and more of a stickler about that. Okay, so I'll be posting that in the Facebook group so that everyone's got a copy of that whole list there, because it's pretty important to be on top of that. Leah asked, if you had to pick one thing, what is the most important thing we can do to stand out in Q4? If there were one thing that I would suggest, it's to improve your title and primary image combo. A lot of people don't think of those as an advertisement, but that is your advertisement on Amazon. That's what people see when they search for your product. That's what people see when you run ads. It's the title plus the primary image. So if your primary image looks funny, or it's photoshopped, or it's too small to be able to see the product, or it's too zoomed in to understand what it is, you need to have a title that grabs someone's attention. Can't be too long to be cut off, right? You want to make sure it's short enough to where it shows for the person who's searching. And then you want your image to be attractive enough to get people to say, oh, maybe, even on a phone, right? So make sure you test out the product on a mobile device, see how it looks. Sometimes we've seen really great images that just don't look good on a primary image for mobile. It just doesn't look good. So you need something different to be able to search. Now, we have seen some interesting stuff where people are using lifestyle images for that, because it really does function like an ad, and you do get much better clicks. If you have a lifestyle image, just keep in mind, lifestyle images are not permitted for the initial primary image. But people still do it all the time because Amazon doesn't have an automated method of reviewing this. So just, as I tell every client that we have, I will tell you exactly what Amazon requires, and I will tell you what other people are doing, and then you need to make the right decision for you and your business. So if you are struggling to get any reviews at all, maybe the risk is worth it for you to choose a lifestyle image or something that's non-compliant from an image guideline perspective, because you just want to get those clicks, and that's a worthwhile risk for you. Other folks who have an established product, who have established traction, they have 300 or 400 reviews on their product, absolutely do not want their listing taken down or warned about for any reason. And so for them, they're certainly not going to violate any guidelines. So know what you are willing to do in your business. What buttons are you willing to push? What buttons are you not willing to push? We have seen warnings come in for non-compliant images from not being compliant with Amazon's guidelines. We have never seen a suspension for having a lifestyle image as the primary image. They'll suppress your listing, but we've never seen a suspension on that. So I have seen suspensions on listings where there was a warning and they suppressed the image, and then the seller didn't fix it and they just added a new one that was non-compliant. So you can try it. If you get warned, fix it. Don't do it again. All right, that's the very worst. It's we usually see that people get warnings. Now there's no guarantees, right? So just be aware that if you decide to go with a lifestyle image to try to get clicks, that could be the result. But if you can do a compliant image and your title, same thing there with the title. We have never seen any Amazon seller get in trouble for a title that was keyword focused. So for example, your typical big brands will have brand, they'll have product name, then they'll have size and color. For a lot of folks, the most effective methodology is to do brand, product name with a keyword phrase in it, then have keyword phrases for size and color, and then maybe another keyword phrase after that. So it's not just a really dry title. It's got kind of a little bit of story to it. Those ones convert better by far. So that's what I would say the most important thing to do is that title and main image combination. Make sure that you know how those look to customers and improve them to be attractive. Tandy asks, is a white background required on lifestyle pics? No. You have to look at the style guidelines for your category. They're called style guides. They're housed with the browse node category list. And it's a really weird place, but use the help page to look for style guide. And it's within Seller Central, so you can't find it unless you're actually behind the Seller Central firewall. And then you want to download the style guide for your category and then read it, because everyone's different. So the style guide requirements for apparel and shoes are more strict in a lot of ways than home improvement or home and garden. So definitely check those for your particular category that you're working on, because some things might be okay in your category that aren't in another one. And then some automation has happened in apparel and shoes that hasn't happened in other categories. So if you're in apparel and shoes, what happened recently, it was the offensive takedowns. Yeah, it was offensive product takedowns, where they had run an automated review on all the pictures, and anything that looked like it was potentially offensive was suppressed. Pretty obnoxious, because if you're selling products that are like shorts, then they look potentially offensive, even though that's what they are. And everyone posts shorts on a body because you require a model. Like, it looks really weird to lay down shorts on the ground. The whole point is to see how short is too short. So we had to request an exemption from that and get them to manually reinstate the listings. So in apparel and shoes, they are starting to do some automated image reviews. Other categories are not doing that yet. But if they're starting in apparel and shoes, that means they're eventually going to get to the other categories. But no, it doesn't have to be white background. So there's some weird stuff with that. So there was Tandy said that she recently saw a post from a seller who said that listing was suppressed for lifestyle not having white background. You have to know your style guide. Definitely read the style guide for your category and see what exactly is permitted. For apparel, they're super strict. There was one listing that we worked on for a client that was suppressed because they had a picture a thing that's for the head, basically for working out. And they had a picture of a person wearing it in the full tracksuit. And they said that that was an inappropriate lifestyle image because it could trick someone into believing they're going to be able to buy a tracksuit. And they're not, obviously, it's only the thing on the head. And so the lifestyle image needed to be primarily the head area and cut off at the shoulders. You can do a lot more on your enhanced brand content than you can on your images. So with your images, it's better to make sure that the product that you're selling is the majority of the product page. Sometimes you can't do that effectively. Sometimes it doesn't look good. And so you may as well try it. And then if they get mad at you, then crop it. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of things that you can get in trouble for. If you get warned, that's the point at which you make sure that you have everything taken care of. I always say start with the style guides. You need to know what's required for your category. There's certain things that you're permitted and not permitted to do. There's very category specific. There's the high level requirements for Amazon, but then sometimes the style guides will actually contradict the high level guides. So definitely check the style guides for your category. Don't assume that just because there's a requirement across Amazon that it's a requirement for your category, or that something that's okay across Amazon is okay for your category. It might not be. Okay, that looks like all the questions for this morning. And thank you, Lee. I appreciate you saying that. That's why we do these. There's so much kind of junk information out there, and now I may as well make those 8 years at Amazon useful, right? I may as well use it for something. I certainly put in my time. And yes, the category style guides take precedence over the general Amazon style guide. Yep. Okay, if anyone gets stuck on that, feel free to post in the Facebook group. I'm happy to go find it. I've got all those bookmarked, of course, and refer to them regularly because that's my job. So if you have any questions about that, please let us know. And we will see you then next Wednesday, bright and early at 7 a.m. Pacific and not quite so early at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right, thank you, everybody. Oh, yes, and in Australia, time for bed. All right, bye, everybody.